Hi there. Today we are going to be making cake. And not just any kind of cake, chocolate cake, which is like my favorite. I got the recipe from Fine Cooking, but I have done a lot of substitutes just to make it more healthy. So as we're going through this, I will show you the substitutes for different items in order to make it healthier. Yeah, so let's get started. Actually, you continue watching and I'll get started. So right now we're doing our wet ingredients, which is water, chocolate, oil, and butter. So instead of using the canola oil, because canola oil isn't even considered edible, it's garbage. So I use grapeseed oil. For chocolate, I use the Alter Ego, Alter Eco, not Alter Ego. Really good chocolate. So here we have our dry ingredients, which is our sugar, our unbleached flour, and our cocoa. For sugar, I like to use palm sugar, which is actually from coconut trees, from the sap there. It actually has vitamins in it, unlike just the regular white granulated sugar. Yeah, so now we're going to mix this and our wet ingredients together. Right, so I've already gone through 5 shirts. And this is my 6th one, and I happen to not have any more, so I'm going to have to continue like this. So all our ingredients is mixed in there. We got our vanilla in there, our salts, and our baking soda, our buttermilk. Alright, the first thing you're going to notice about this cake is that it's quite a bit thicker than other cakes. That's why the cooking time is quite a bit longer. So I'm just going to now divide this between my 3 pans. And now my pans, we did with butter, and then we put parchment paper on the bottom, and that just will help you get it. So I've evenly distributed the dough, or the cake batter, and I'm going to throw them in the oven. So our cakes are in the oven, and they're looking real good. So I've started on our icing. So in here I threw the cream and the butter. I let that melt, and as soon as the butter was melted, I added in my chocolate. And my chocolate's been in there, it's nice and melted. I'm going to add some more of my palm sugar. I said frosting. Oh, frosting, sorry, not icing. And so we're just going to throw this in there and let that melt. Yeah, with the icing you gotta be a little patient. Frosting. Okay, frosting. Ooh, after adding that palm sugar, it just got so much richer. Alright, so we're gonna give that a good stir. Now, the recipe calls for corn syrup. Corn syrup, most corn is all GMO and garbage. So I've substituted it for honey. Yeah, GMO is bad. Powder in there. Now as soon as your cocoa powder is incorporated in there, your icing is done. You can throw it in your frosting. Sorry. You throw it in there in your pan and throw it in the freezer for 2 hours, and yeah, you're good to go. Alright, so we can let this sit in the freezer for 2 hours, or we can let it sit overnight in the fridge. Okay, so we're now making marshmallows for our cake, which is, yeah, cake with marshmallows, who knew? So we have our mixing bowl with 3/4 of a cup water and our gelatin. The gelatin that I use is bovine, which is beef, so it's kosher. So for here, we got our corn syrup, I know non-kosher, but with marshmallows, you can't avoid it. We have our sugar, and which I use regular sugar so it doesn't discolor it, so it's white. Then we have our water and confectioner's sugar. So we're going to let that sit for 10 minutes. I don't have a candy thermometer, so I'm going to show you at our next step how to go about checking if it's ready without a candy thermometer. Alright, so we've let it sit for a while. Now you'll notice that it started to thicken quite a bit. Now, the way that we're going to test this, that I have here a cold cup of water, and if it's ready, it'll solidify into a perfect ball, and if not, it'll just make a big splatter. Drop that in there. See how thick it is. Boom. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, it's definitely a really thick ball. We're going to slowly add this to there. We finished slowly adding that. I'm just going to add my vanilla. Now we're going to turn it on to high heat, or high speed for 5 minutes. So we've just finished mixing our marshmallow. Look at that. So we're just going to pour this now into our pan. And we're going to even it out and throw it, or just leave it at room temperature for 2 hours. Thank you. Alright, so I'm done whipping my marshmallow, and I've thrown it on a tray. I'm going to let that sit for 2 hours. Over here we have our frosting. I threw it in the freezer for 2 hours, and then when it was done, I threw it in my mixer, threw it in with the paddles for 2 minutes, and when it started to get softer, I threw it in on the whisk for 3 minutes. And what we're going to do, we're going to spread that out and get it all around the sides, and then we're going to add another layer and do the same thing. We're going to add our third layer and do the exact same thing. And then when you're at that step, we'll throw it in the fridge for 20 minutes. And a few seconds later, we'll have a nice, beautiful cake. So we're going to let that sit in the fridge for 20 minutes, just because the icing is getting soft. And we're going to finish. So we've let our marshmallow sit, and I'm just cutting it now. We have our cold water, and the water just helps it not to stick so much. And then just as soon as you have it cut, just to make it not stick, you throw it in your icing sugar. And then you'll see over here, I've done a few. I've also done some in some coconut, some toasted coconut. So basically you can do whatever you want. And then after we're done this, we'll stick them on our cake. And just like that, our cake is finished. And I hope that I'm making you hungry right now while I'm recording it. Thank you for watching. If you want a slice, you can come on over. And see you next time. Dun, 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 dun. For watching, let's get. Ah.